All right, good afternoon, race fans. You caught Coach Stratton and I in the truck again, headed back home from yet another racing event. We just finished up the Occoquan duels this weekend down in Virginia on Lake Occoquan, just south of DC. And it was a fantastic day of racing, so I'm going to try to give everyone as much of a synopsis as I can of the events and how we did. This event was put together a couple of years ago by a group of schools that, in my opinion, are right around Marist's speed, Marist's goal speed. So it represents schools kind of across the spectrum from people that we enjoy racing, belong racing with, and also some schools that are a little bit of a reach for us. That event was run in Philly last year, and at the outset of this season, we were inquiring with some of the coaches who were involved in that race last spring to see if we could get an invitation for Marist. And in the process of that inquiry, we discovered that the schools had kind of broken up that event. That one group of programs had decided to kind of go off and run their own race, and the rest of the teams had kind of been left, with no race that weekend, no one to organize a race. And so the more that the coaches talked about it, the more everybody realized we didn't have something scheduled for this weekend. The programs that were all listed were programs that all wanted to race with one another. And so we got to talking about how best to set up a race and where we could compete together. And so that led us to Lake Occoquan down here in Virginia, which is where we run our spring training camp for the last 3 years. And so that was an exciting opportunity for us. The schools that were involved in the race today were Hobart and St. Joe's, Loyola, Jacksonville, and the University of San Diego, who came out from the West Coast to join us. So it was really great group of programs. And this has definitely been a race that we've been looking forward to since the beginning of the year when we originally got it set up, and definitely delivered as a great event for us. So I want to thank the coaches who helped set this up. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot one of the programs. Marietta was there as well, and Marietta's coach Greg Meyer and Hobart's coach Chris Kerber were instrumental in setting this race up. So huge thank you to them for pulling together and doing some of the legwork to make this event happen. In particular, Hobart's sports administrators did a lot of the background legwork in terms of collecting insurance information and entry fees and all that kind of thing, paid for everything up front and got the event set up. So huge thank you to them for going the extra mile for men's rowing. We came down and practiced last night on the course, and I would say the biggest challenge of the day for all of our boats was that the time between racing was extremely tight. There were 2 races, a heat and a final, and so we knew that with only about an hour and a half between the 2 races, that the fueling situation, getting getting enough carbohydrate back into the athletes was going to be one of the big challenges here. And so I want to applaud our athletes who did a very good job of kind of dialing in, exactly how to warm up, exactly how to get ready for both races today, which came in quick succession, which is it's a big challenge. So the varsity raced first this morning. Their heat was with Jacksonville and San Diego. They had a great start, quick start, got off the line, and they were able to get in the first maybe 600 or 700 meters, they were able to get about a boat length lead on San Diego, and they kind of hung with that margin for most of the rest of the morning race. San Diego was able to kind of hang with them just off their hip, maybe 8 seats down for most of that piece, and then they took their first step up in rate, their first part of their sprint during this morning's race, and then kind of held that through the finish line. So they were able to get through that race. They won that heat, and then in the final, that set us up for a 4-boat final with Hobart and St. Joe's and San Diego. We came into the weekend hoping for that matchup. Hobart has had some great speed already this spring and actually beat Georgetown last weekend, which is a big win, and so they were definitely a threat, and we knew that St. Joe's was faster than they had been branded. They beat us up pretty well in the fall, and so we knew that crew had some speed and represented a bigger threat than the IRC rankings suggested right now. So we were pumped for a serious knife fight, and a serious knife fight is exactly what we got in the final. Hobart stepped out and immediately put a ton of pressure on everyone right out of the gate, right out of the start. They went up probably about 3 or 4 seats in the first 500 meters. Joe's was able to get up a seat and a half, maybe 2 seats on Marist, and San Diego was behind, but they made a much bigger, stronger push in the final here than they did in the earlier morning heat. And so they were like really hanging with Marist. They were maybe a seat down in the final, through that first part of the final. Second 500, Hobart just sent it. They poured on a bunch of speed, and they went up about, at the end of the 1,000 meters, Hobart was up by 7 or 8 seats. Joe's hung about 2 seats up on Marist, and so 1,000 meters in, it's Hobart by almost a whole boat length over Joe's and Marist, and then San Diego maybe 5 or 6 seats back on Marist, and Marist made a move around the 1,000 meter mark to try to move up on Joe's, and right around that time, it seemed like Hobart started to fall apart a little bit. and so Marist's move started to, as they and Joe's were doing battle with each other, it allowed Marist to start pushing back up into Hobart's lead. Marist called an earlier move than usual, about 700 meters to go for their first lift, and were able to take some seats right away on Joe's, and then both Marist and Joe's just sent it, and Hobart, I think, had just spent everything, and they ran out of steam. They weren't rowing badly. Nothing bad happened to them. I just think they ran out of steam a little bit, and they had just poured so much into the first 1,000 meters, and so final 500 meters, Marist continued to move away. Joe's went with them, and actually Joe's had a fantastic sprint. The final result had Joe's just a couple points of a second behind Marist. And then San Diego actually was creeping up, making a big move as well, and they ended up pouncing on Hobart, who were falling apart. And so the final was really close. Final result, everyone was within 3 seconds. It was Marist V8 536.3, Joe's 536.5, San Diego 538, and Hobart at 539. So everyone within a boat length of each other, basically. It was a fantastic race, really, really fun to watch. Come from behind victory for Marist. So really cool race to see. Second varsity in the morning round, they faced Jacksonville and I believe Loyola, right? Yeah. So. And that race, they got up more easily than the varsity had, and they kind of cruised in that morning heat. And Hobart, based on the results that we saw, it looked like Hobart kind of did the same. St. Joe's was a little bit closer to Hobart in that heat, but they also were far enough ahead that it didn't look like they really got pushed. And so we knew going into that final that Hobart was going to be the real threat in the 2V, and that race was the closest race of the day. Not at the finish line. The varsity was closer at the finish line with Joe's, but the Joe's the Marist and Hobart crews, the 2V8s, they both had a good start. Hobart got 2 seats in the early going of that race, and the two boats just went blow for blow for blow for 1,900 meters. There was not 2 seats in it or less. There were 2 seats in it or less the entire way down the race course, and so it was just a wire-to-wire brawl between these two boats. Both of them had just phenomenal race. Tail end of that piece, it seemed like Marist found just a little extra gear and were able to turn the momentum just a little bit at just the right time to get a seat, half a seat up. And then in the last 200 meters, I think they were able to just get one more little sprint gear and push their bow out ahead, and they ended up winning that by a second. So it was Marist at 5:44 with the Hobart 2V at 5:45, Jacksonville at 5:57, and St. Joe's at 6:03. So another great win for Marist. In the 3V, the 3v8 had an easier run in the morning. Similar to the 2Vs, they got out ahead, they got really long, and they were able to kind of cruise to an easy setup for their final. I believe the 3V in the morning were racing Jacksonville again, right? It's Jacksonville, and then they rode against a boat that was a compilation of oarsmen, everyone's spares basically, that we were calling the All-Star crew. I'll mention them in just a second. So that was a fairly easy race for the 3V. They were able to get a halfway decent start, and then they got out in front, and they were able to cruise to a morning victory. And then in the afternoon, again, we figured it would be them or Hobart in that race. And the Hobart 3V got out to an early lead, and they just went. And boy, they looked really long and really powerful, and they had a great little row in that boat. So the Marist crew, I think, in my opinion, I think they got a little bit tight. I think Hobart put a lot into the early part of the race, and that just put a ton of pressure on the Marist crew, and they just didn't really know what to do with that. And so Hobart, once they were able to get away, it kind of became impossible to track down. Jacksonville poured on a ton in that afternoon race, and really sent it with the 3Vs, and so they really dropped the hammer to try to have a better race, and then Joe's ended up coming in at 6:13 in that race. So the final was Hobart with the win at 5:49, Marist at 5:56, Jacksonville 6:07, and St. Joe's at 6:13. And then I wanted to mention that we brought two spare oarsmen, port and a starboard, and a spare coxswain. The coxswain, Evie Diskay, and the oarsmen, Evan Brown and Ethan King. Also, all of our E names. They all got to row in a combination boat of everyone's spares. And so big special thanks to Coach Meyer at Marietta for putting that together. Rather than having those guys all just standing around on land, we were able to get them all a race today, which was fun. And so they raced in the morning heat with some of the other athletes from Marietta and also Jacksonville. And then in the afternoon, a different group of spares got to race, and our guys helped out with the stake boats. So special thanks to those guys, and also cool that they were able to get a racing opportunity. They raced in the same heat with our 3V, and they actually had a very good race. They were pretty tight with Jacksonville's 3V throughout that race, and they did not beat Jacksonville, but they were in the race, making a go of it, and at least maybe halfway through that race, it looked like they had a chance to take the win over Jacksonville's crew. So that was fun to watch, and again, cool to get those guys a race. Overall, a phenomenal day for the team. Coach Stratton and I are really, really, really proud of how these young athletes are coming along. There is a lot of energy in the boathouse right now, and it feels like a lot of athletes are pushing really hard. Throughout the week, every week, it just feels like everybody's got their pedal to the floor with their training. We ran 2K testing this week, and there were a whole bunch of huge PRs at all levels in the crew, and that was really cool to see. And it just speaks to everybody feels like they're getting dialed in, and so it's been an exciting week. The part of our challenge now is to not get complacent. This was a fantastic result, but we are going to see all of these teams again at the Dad Vale in May, and so that result will trump whatever we did today. But certainly was a great indicator of what is possible for this crew today. So it was an exciting race to be a part of. We are headed into a short week this week because we raced on Sunday. We'll have tomorrow off for most of our crews, and then we'll be racing on Saturday in Worcester with Temple and Holy Cross, and we'll get another crack at Hobart. And so we'll expect that grudge match to continue. Special thanks again to the families who came today. We were really, really well supported and fueled today, and that was huge for the team. And also special thanks to the coaches who helped pull this event together. We are already excited to be a part of this group of schools and hopefully be back here next year and make this event a bigger and more competitive event. And thanks for that. And then also thank you to Lake Occoquan, the Sandy Run Boathouse. It's a great little place to row. We've been hooked on this place ever since we came down here for the AARC regatta in, what year was that? 2022? 2023. We were down here and discovered Lake Occoquan, and we've been coming here for our spring camps ever since. And that was a really cool feeling today to be out on a race course that kind of felt like it was our home away from home a little bit. And so thanks to the many Virginians who make that facility possible, and the various referees and volunteers who work with that group. We will look forward to bringing you more updates as we get ready for next week at Holy Cross. And in the meantime, we hope everyone has a great week. Go Red Foxes.